Let's be clear, folks. The mistreatment and exploitation of Africans by non-Africans, this isn't breaking news. This isn't a new season of some reality show. This is a rerun. It's the same old story, just with new actors and a slightly updated script. For centuries, the African continent has been treated like a free-for-all buffet, with everyone grabbing what they can. And just when you think the buffet is closed, someone new walks in with a bigger plate. We like to think we've evolved, that slavery and colonialism are chapters confined to history books. But the truth? It's still happening, just dressed up in different clothes. Instead of shackles and chains, it's unfair trade deals and economic exploitation. It's about time we call it what it is. A blatant disrespect for human dignity and a continuation of a very ugly legacy. The sad part? Many of us are so accustomed to seeing Africa as a place of suffering that we've become desensitized to it. We watch the news, shake our heads, and then go about our day. But this isn't just a problem for Africa to solve. This is a global issue that demands our attention, our outrage, and most importantly, our action. It's time we rewrite the script. Remember the days of slave ships packed with Africans, shipped off to work on plantations? Today's plantations may look different, but the exploitative practices remain eerily similar. We see it in the mines of the Congo, where children toil for pennies to extract precious minerals for our smartphones. We see it in the cocoa fields of West Africa, where farmers struggle to feed their families while multinational corporations rake in billions. And let's not forget about the influx of substandard goods flooding African markets. From expired food to faulty electronics, it's like a dumping ground for everything the rest of the world doesn't want. But hey, as long as there's a profit to be made, right? This isn't just about bad business practices. It's about a complete disregard for the health and well-being of entire communities. These issues might seem disconnected, but they all stem from the same root, a deeply ingrained belief that African lives are somehow worth less. It's the same mentality that fueled colonialism, and it's the same mentality that allows these exploitative practices to continue today. Now, before anyone starts pointing fingers and crying reverse racism, let's be clear. This isn't about demonizing entire continents or blaming individuals for the sins of their ancestors. This is about recognizing that the legacy of colonialism and exploitation is still very much alive, and it's being perpetuated by specific actors, including governments and corporations from Asia, China, and Europe. We see it in the way some Asian countries treat African workers, with reports of abuse, discrimination, and even physical violence. We see it in the predatory lending practices of some Chinese companies, leaving African nations drowning in debt. And let's not forget the European companies still profiting from unfair trade deals that keep African economies on their knees. It's time to stop pretending that these are isolated incidents or cultural misunderstandings. This is about power, greed, and a refusal to acknowledge the long-lasting harm inflicted on the African continent. It's about time these modern-day slave masters are held accountable for their actions. So what can we do about it? Well, for starters, we need to stop looking the other way. If you see something, say something. Report these injustices to local authorities, to international organizations, to anyone who will listen. Expose these predatory practices and hold the perpetrators accountable. But it's not enough to just complain. We need to support organizations fighting for economic justice in Africa. We need to demand that our governments implement fair trade policies and hold corporations responsible for their actions. And most importantly, we need to amplify the voices of African activists and leaders who are on the front lines of this fight. This isn't just about Africa. It's about dismantling a system that benefits from the exploitation of the vulnerable, regardless of where they are in the world. It's about recognizing that our destinies are interconnected and that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's time to break the cycle. It's time for change.